Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday, the 14th of October, 2018. And we're going to have a great show today because we have our guest is Cal Washington from the InPower Movement. And we're going to be talking all about legal, common law and all that kind of stuff. We're going to get into that and talk to Cal about the state of Ireland really at the moment, the way things are going on from a legal perspective. So we'll be touching base with Carl in about 10 minutes or so. As usual, we have a few things to talk about. But before we do that, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Okay, communication channels, folks.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thanks very much, Mary. Yes, the OYM chat room can be found on the website, which is oymradio.com. You will see the link on the left-hand side for the chat room. You can log in there if you have registered already and have a username and password. You can pop along in there. And a very friendly bunch of people they are, and they're all already logged in, so I want to say a big hi to everyone. We also monitor the chat room on People's Internet Radio as well for your questions, and again, another friendly bunch of people, so hi to everyone logged in there also. On our own website there, oymradio.com, you will see all the relevant links on the left-hand side for the anti-social media, Facebook, for Twitter, Skype, the email, and also the MeWe platform. We spoke about MeWe several times before. It's an alternative to Facebook where they are not storing your data. So do check us out on MeWe. And the email address info@oymradio.com. If you're a new listener to the show, or perhaps an old listener to the show, you want to just drop us a quick line, let us know where you're listening from, and what you think of the show, and if you have any suggestions for guests that we may want to have on for future shows, that would also be much appreciated. What else have we got? We have the TuneIn Radio App. That's a free app for your smartphone or your iPhone. That is available as a link there on the bottom of the website as well, where you can get that. You can listen to us all day, every day. There's also a little link there for the OYM shop, which is a kind of a small little area of the website where you can pick up some little trinkets, from books to DVDs and T-shirts as well. And also bumper stickers. If you have a bumper that you need to have stickered, you can get some OYM bumper stickers in there. Alan.
Brilliant stuff. Okay. Now, yesterday we had the United We Start International Radio around a table, and there was myself, Matt, and Detlev, and Michael, and we had a good chat about what was going on in the States regarding the whole Kavanagh issue, and we talked about a number of other things as well on the show. So if you want to tune in to that international podcast, you can pop over to unitedwestart.org, and the podcast will be there to listen to or to download for your pleasure. And we had a good chat yesterday, and we covered a number of things, so it'd be very interesting to tune in. As I say, good information. We didn't have a guest on, but good information on what we covered anyway. Right, Steve, you're going to kick us off.
I am. Tom Duffy is an activist, and he was on O'Connell Street in Dublin last week, and he watched a man, he said, aged between 30 and 40 years of age, wrap his 74-year-old mother from the cold outside of a Starbucks. The system and the government, the politicians in Ireland, are not working and have no interest in solving this problem. They do some piecemeal attempts when enough people complain, but never will they use the taxpayers' money for what it is supposed to be intended for. They're more interested in feathering their own nests than helping the people of Ireland. Well, I mean, I think we've seen that's it's not really news, I suppose. It's just kind of letting people know that it's still going on. But this happens on a weekly basis, where people are suffering from the ill effects of the cold, the bad weather, and they're just left on the street. And, you know, as has happened in the past, some of them have actually died and been found on doorsteps. And it's only when that kind of something like that happens and it's highlighted in the media is when some government minister will stand up and say, oh yeah, we must do something about this. But then they never do.
They never do. It's disgraceful. It really is. In 2018, for this to happen is just ridiculous. A couple of weeks ago, we had a guest on called David DeBoyne. David was talking about the grand solar minimum and the fact that our weather patterns are changing, our winters are going to get worse and our summers are going to get worse over a 35-year period. And basically, he sent in documents showing the changes in global weather patterns and the expected food shortages, and because of it, because of obviously the weather. So if you want a copy, please send an email to info@oymradio.com, and we'll be happy to forward on them documents if you want to have a look at them for proof, as in the stats, what's happening globally. It was interesting information. Steve?
Yeah, news from the mirror.co.uk. It says medical cannabis set to be available on prescription in the UK within a month. Medical cannabis could be changing status after a review was called, meaning it will be available on prescription. Medicinal cannabis is set to be available in the UK on prescription within 1 month. The article says, currently cannabis oil is only ever prescribed in exceptional circumstances and has to be granted by a medical panel. It's reported that the Home Secretary has sanctioned the reschedule of the treatment, and an official announcement is expected within the next 2 weeks. If this goes ahead, it means medicinal cannabis could be prescribed on the NHS. Obviously, if that happens in the UK, watch this space, because it could be coming to the HSE and a medical card near you.
I wouldn't hold my breath, though.
No, I wouldn't either.
Knowing the Irish government, they'll still come up with some excuse. Well, maybe you can go across the border and get it. I don't know whether that's... did you read the rest, yeah?
There is a page 2.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yes. The unscripted script, we'll need to put PTO at the bottom of the page.
PTO, yeah.
There is more to this article. It does say those suffering from epilepsy, nausea and chronic pain due to chemotherapy could all be given an option to get the drug on prescription. This is very encouraging progress for thousands of people with the likes of MS, who have been forced to choose between living with relentless pain and muscle spasms or breaking the law. The MS Society, Genevieve Edwards, told the Sunday Telegraph. The changes following a long battle by campaigners will mean Britain joins countries such as Germany, who have already given the drug the go-ahead. So yeah, it's good news. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Definitely, as long as it's the proper medical cannabis oil and not some synthetic patented Monsanto rubbish, they'll always try and get in. And there is a rumour that one of these companies are trying to copyright the plant, trademark the plant. I mean, how can you trade? It's like trying to trademark grass. Well,
that's what they're trying to do, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
That's another name for it, grass.
Yeah, grass, yeah. Okay, and the last thing on the list here before we go off to Alan and Steve's week is that our donations at OYM Radio are getting very low, folks. And we hate asking for donations, but they really do keep the wheels in motion. I know when we get donations in, sometimes what we do is pass on, if we have spare money, we'll pass it on to a group, or we'll do something like that, like we did with the Child Protection Awareness Group with Louise. Now, we have the walkie-talkies for Louise here. Louise has been working very hard over the last few weeks, and I'm trying to nail her down so we can meet up with her and give her the walkie-talkies on behalf of OYM and the listeners for her group who help expose sexual predators. And of course, if we have, as I say, if we have spare cash, we try and help out where we can. But things are getting very, very low at the moment. And all you have to do really is, it doesn't matter whether it's €1, €2, €5. Just go over to the website and click on the PayPal option and put in what you can afford and send it over to us. It'd be much appreciated. It just helps cover the bills here. That'd be fantastic. And keeps the wheels in motion. Thanks very much.
That will be the wheels on the Bentley.
The wheels on the Bentley. Yeah. How's your week?
Yeah, my week. Yeah, I think I reported last week about more more items breaking in the homestead. I don't know if it's just me or if other people are noticing that kind of things are breaking on a kind of daily/weekly basis. Yeah. Well, to add to the list of all the things that have already broken, the wife's car was leaking oil during the week. There was a puddle in the driveway. So obviously that will have to be that has to get sorted. And my extractor fan in the kitchen. If anyone who does a lot of cooking, of which I'm not, I eat a lot of food, but I don't generally cook at all. But the extractor fan went berserk in the kitchen, and kind of sparks flew out of it. So I dismantled that and took it apart. And the motor. And I was just saying to Alan yesterday, it's amazing. There's one small part gone in this fan. It's a motor, and to replace the motor with obviously one of kind of the same dimensions and what have you, it would be it would cost nearly €100 when you do the conversions on shipping, etc. Nearly €100. For an €89.99, I can buy a whole new extractor fan. And I just think it's soul destroying when you can. It's cheaper to condemn something and throw it into the rubbish than it is to actually repair it. It doesn't make sense to me. What else we got? Anxiety and stress. I've come across a lot of people actually, Jordan, this week. Some of them I work with, and I've when you work with some people and they're generally kind of happy-go-lucky. They might have a little bit of a moan or something. But 3 of the people I've worked with this week, they all seem to be suffering from anxiety and stress. And I have to say, I was a little bit concerned because I remember we spoke there before about this download that was supposed to be coming in, that was supposed to be, waves hitting the planet, and people were going to be having different, feeling different ways and different symptoms. And I'm not sure if this is something to do with that, or if it's just maybe these 3 people are all stressed for the same reason. I don't know. But I did notice that during the week with some people. So if anyone else out there has noticed people who are not normally suffering from stress, and you've noticed that they are stressed, just let us know, because it'd be nice to know if it's an isolated incident, or if it's kind of something that is going on across the world, because maybe there is a download coming in. We don't know. And the last thing I want to mention is I came across a video there last night, and I sent a link to Alan. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it.
I did, yeah.
Did you? This is the one for the 80s music chap.
Yes, KRS1.
KRS1. Anyone of a certain era you'll probably know KRS1. He was kind of an outspoken
rapper.
I don't know if he was a rapper, but he was kind of he was we'll say rap, but it wasn't really rap. I can't think of the genre. But he used to sing about stuff that we're talking about now. He was singing about it back in the 80s, and I found a video of him last night giving an interview to, I don't know if it was journalists or if it was like just high school kids, but he was talking about the likes of the Illuminati and what is it, the Illuminati, the Masons, the Freemasons, and all this. And he was saying that, a lot of people have a misconception. Now, I'm not saying I agree with the chap, but it was interesting to hear his take on it. He was saying that a lot of these people who are high ups and claim that, that they rule the world and we should fear them, he said it's the opposite. He said they actually fear us. That's why they have so much security around them. And he said they're all nerds. Most of them will be nerds. And they come up with all these mad plans and like to kind of take over the world and all this sort of carry on. And it was interesting to hear his take on it. Now, like I say, I'm not saying I actually agree with it, but if anyone else has any ideas of let's say, for argument's sake, the Illuminati, the illuminated ones, the people who allegedly are running the whole kit and caboodle, what kind of people they are. Do you reckon at their heart they're good people or bad people, or what do you think of them? It'd be just interesting to hear people's thoughts on that. And just the last thing I want to mention, the absolute last thing, is we have been getting a lot of emails, and I'm just going to kind of touch on this very lightly. We have been corresponding recently to a lot of emails in relation to various different subjects, and we're kind of the replies that we're getting back are all coming from a religious perspective. Now, we're not saying that religion is wrong or it's bad or it's man-made. We're not kind of saying anything about religion. But if we're kind of having an open-minded discussion and people are just coming back, and this is my own personal thoughts, people are coming back and they're approaching their response from a religious perspective, but they're not listening. They're not prepared to kind of listen to what we're saying or where we're coming from. But everything we say or we do is wrong unless it's religious. It's religious. I think that's not very open-minded, and it's not very constructive. And I just wanted to mention that we're not saying that we have all the answers, but we're open-minded enough. And as Alan said last week, what we know today may change tomorrow, depending on the information. You have to be able to entertain the thought. Yeah. And if you're so focused on the religion that you can't entertain something that goes against what you believe, then you're closed-minded. Yeah. Now, we're not saying that religion is wrong. I mean, I'm sure there's a place for religion in everyone's life. But we're all on the path. We are all on the path of learning, a path of knowledge, and we'll all get there in the end. I do believe that, and we'll all get there at our own pace. I don't think we don't need people pushing us or pushing an agenda at us. But that's what it seems to be now. It's kind of what it seems to be. I mean, and we're not pushing anything. I mean, anything we say on this show is put out there as information, not fear porn, nothing else. It's put out there as information. We get experts on from their field just to give you some information, and it's up to the listener to put it in your file and do with it what you wish. Anyway, there we go, my little rant over. How was your week?
Okay, brilliant. Before we bring Carl in, our guest, just a couple of things. One, on the things that are breaking down. Yes, I've had that during the week as well. Something else just broke all of a sudden. 1 minute it worked, next minute it didn't. Couldn't explain it, just did stop working. Also, I had my parents who had a problem with their heating, that went down. And of course, the heating engineer he thought the best solution was to offer them a £500 motor or a £2,000 boiler. So I said, well, no, we're not having that. So I actually chased a company in Sweden who then gave me a contact over here in Ireland. To cut a long story short, basically, I got the parts made up, and when I gave them to the heating engineer, he thought, wow, where'd you get them? So, all I say to people is that even if you're told by somebody that, you're going to have to replace it, do a little bit of homework first. It might save you a lot of money. So instead of spending £500 on a motor or $2,000 on a boiler, when you spend 35 quid on a few cables, saves a lot of money. Right. And very quickly, during the week, I'm starting to get back into juicing, Steve. So I posted something up on Facebook regarding a potential cancer cure. Well, this is what they were proclaiming to this. And I've seen it before where you have beetroot, apple, carrots. I think, let me just...
I'm not hearing cabbage, Alan. Is there any cabbage in there?
No. Beetroot, carrots, a lemon and apple juice. And I actually tried it, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't too bad. I had it, and it's supposed to be very good. And I've heard about this before. And today I actually had some oranges, carrots, and lemon as a juice. So I'm actually getting back in. I had to fix the juice machine. That broke. The juice machine broke, and, and I had to fix that as well. So I don't know, folks. I don't know what's going on with the universe, but everything seems to be breaking. Things aren't working. So if you're having the same experience, let us know. Anyway, we're going to bring our guest in now. Carl is involved with the InPower Movement, and it's great to have Carl on because we're going to really get into the legal side. But before we bring him on, Steve's going to read out his bio.
Yes, Cal Washington is an empowerment advocate and contractor who has stumbled into knowledge leading to an extraordinary experience within the system of commerce and justice. As co-founder of the InPower Movement, he is dedicated to sharing his knowledge to help people truly take back their power and hold accountable those involved in agendas causing harm. Cal's website, for those who wish to have a look at it, is inpowermovement.com.
Good evening, Carl. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks.
Great. Listen,
how you doing, Alan?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for coming on the show. Much appreciated. We've had a number of people that have said to us they're looking forward to the show because they loved speaking about the legal side. And you have a similar system. I mean, basically, near enough, I think it's a similar system because you're a British colony. And technically we are as well. So we have common law. We have certain rules and regulations very similar in the legal system. But before we start getting into the legal side, I'd want you just to expand on your experience and your bio, because you've actually done the groundwork, not only done the groundwork, but you've actually been to jail, learning all about this, what's the right way and what's the wrong way. So can you expand on that and tell us what happened and your build up to the knowledge that you have, and then we'll get into asking questions and stuff like that.
Well, that's correct. I found myself, it started with a divorce, and that was my first real in-depth experience with the courts. And once I got in there, I realized there was something incorrect about all of this, and so I started to research, and, I came across a few of the, different teachings on law and what to do, free man on the land, that kind of thing. I tried them all, and I tried everything, and I tried all kinds of different paperwork, and I had to pay the consequences because they were my own cases, and so I was arrested a lot, and did 60 days in jail. I wasn't sentenced to 60 days in jail, but it took them 60 days to get through a trial, which should have been 1 day. And so I've been through it. I know what doesn't work, and then I know what does work, because I went from a life of torment, constantly looking over my shoulder, and what we call brown envelopes in the mail, because the government sends unbleached envelopes, so we call them brown envelopes, and to nothing. And so that was my whole goal, was to get this thing to leave me alone, and I achieved that. So this is not theoretical to me. What I teach is what I've done, and paid the consequences to learn it.
Okay, well, as I say, you have the experience and the scars to prove it, that you've done it. Now, we are told an awful lot of things about how to approach going into court, and we had a quick chat before the show, and I mentioned about we're going into court and we're playing chess against an expert chess player, but you said, well, what we perceive as checkers, they're playing chess and we're playing checkers, but the board is the same, which is a great analogy. And we've been told an awful lot of things of what to do when you go into court, and it's quite intimidating when you go in, and and they know the system inside out, and most of the time they do, and you're going into this alien place that and if you're not kind of up on the law, and my concern would be going into court would be you do 99% of the research and they get you on the 1%. So do you want to take us from myself and Steve, who are not, we know a little bit, but we don't know a lot. So what would you say to us? So what's the approach? What did you do that works, and what was your approach to it?
Well, the first thing, because of the way the system is set up, you don't want to go to court. And because by showing up, you've agreed, and that's the main problem. So as soon as you're standing there, the judge will make a bunch of assumptions in his head. He's not going to tell you anything, but because you're there, and if you answer, even if you answer with all the lingo, and I'm not the all caps name and all that stuff, you're still standing there. So you didn't challenge the jurisdiction. So that is sort of an advanced approach. So you want to challenge the jurisdiction with paper before you ever get there. And here's the problem. Then they're going to drag you in. So this is not for the faint of heart. Mm. Once they drag you in, not there voluntarily, the game changes. So they have forced you to come. Now you can say all those things because you didn't walk in the door on your own. You were brought there. So that's how things changed for me, because I was dragged there, and therefore I could say a lot more things, and the judge had to didn't have his normal assumptions about me.
Okay, so
that's the. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so when you say dragged there, they obviously issued a warrant for your arrest and brought you in. Is that what you mean?
That's correct.
Okay, so when you were challenging their paperwork, because as far as I know, it's legal. You're allowed to ask questions. So all you're doing with the paperwork and jurisdiction is sending the paperwork back and questioning or querying their jurisdiction over you. So does that mean that they blatantly just ignored your paperwork and set up a warrant to go and get you?
Well, it's sort of yes and no, because what'll end up happening, you got to get a bigger picture of the whole thing. So I'll step back in history. There's a thing called Lex Mercatoria, and this is where this all kind of led to. Once I discovered what was really going on, it's called the law merchant, and it was more of an informal. That was for merchants, for international disputes and disputes amongst merchants who were very transient. So things had to move very quickly. Well, that whole system got brought into the common law courts because there was money to be made, and that was in the 1200s by Lord Mansfield. So you have to do a little bit of research. But then nobody talked about it. But what was said was the judges are to take judicial notice of the lex mercatoria. So what they did is they just made everything commerce and didn't tell anybody. So we all think that it's either statutory court or a common law court, but they're actually running in commerce. And when you understand that, if you use commercial process from the lex mercatoria, that's how you get the results. So if somebody sends me a warrant, I say, prove that this warrant is has any validity, or whatever each case. And if you don't, then I'm either not coming, or if it's about money, then whatever you think I owe you, you owe me double. If you cannot prove that your offer in commerce is real.
Okay.
I know. So and here's the thing. I know you have people getting into foreclosures there, and what's happened is they're operating in lex mercatoria, and people don't know that. So it's just a game. It's a jurisdiction, and there are rules in that. And if you don't understand them, you're going to get taken advantage of, and that's how they're doing all of these things, worldwide.
Well, it's quite, the fact that you say is commercial courts, obviously it's always got to do with money. It's the revenue earners, you have to make money, and that's what it's all down to. So let's take something very basic, because we're not advanced in the legal side. So let's say, for example, you get a notification through the post that you got a parking ticket or a speeding fine or something. What would your approach be? We'll talk about it on this level first, and then we can ramp it up a bit more. But let's talk about the basics first. So you get a parking ticket or speeding fine. How would you approach that?
Well, parking ticket's a little bit different. Sometimes it's private property, but a speeding fine, where I live, I would challenge the act. So the Act, which is called the Motor Vehicle Act, says you cannot blah, 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 drive past something, something, something against road signs, or it'd be along those lines. So I would go with the Act, and I would say, can you show me, because they always recite the Act that you've violated, can you prove that the Act was given royal assent, or can you prove that it was passed properly, or signed by the Lieutenant Governor here? That's how I would approach it. If you can't, then I'll assume that the Act is null and void, and I will ignore your summons. If you choose to drag me in there, then I will be charging you $3,000, $5,000 per hour, whatever I want to do. That's commerce. And so, do we have an agreement? If you can prove that this act is valid, then I will show up, and I'd be found guilty. If you can't, then it's not real, and therefore you cannot enforce this on me. And if you try to enforce this on me, then I'm going to charge you.
Okay. Over here, what happens is that the judges, their job is to, interpret the law. And we quickly talked about this before we went live, and their interpretation is either depending on their knowledge, and if they are not familiar with the law, or they just interpret it in a way that suits the 1% or the elite, because they can't set a precedent on certain things, or they just blatantly ignore your letter, what you've just sent to them, and they say, well, I'm just ignoring that, just go and get them, issue a warrant. I mean, this is the problem. It's not so much that the system is wrong, it's the people running it are corrupt.
Yes, that's a true statement, but the system itself is, once you can see the system in its, in a more of an entirety, I don't know if anybody can see the whole thing, but it is balanced on the, if everybody understood how it worked, it would self-correct. But because only the 1% and the very high ups understand how it works, the rest of us get taken advantage of. That's the best way I can put it. So what I found was most of the judges knew what I was doing. Not all of them, but most. And very few of the lawyers knew. Not all did, but very few of them did. So there was definitely an education that happened once you move from a lawyer to a judge. It was very evident. So once you become a judge here, at least they were told a little bit more about how it works. And so when I did commerce, it was always the judge and I that were speaking, and they once they knew that I knew and I wasn't just trying, the game really started to change, and there was a lot of negotiating, and they weren't happy about it. But when I first started doing commerce, the very first time that I did I'm just gonna say it, I did a bond on the case, the judge ran out of the room physically, and so as I was walking in, so that told me that was the blink. They blinked, and so I saw these blinks over and over, even though their rhetoric was, there's no validity to what you're doing. Their reactions and their trying to get out of the room and trying to get off the case was self-evident, and that what I was doing was number one, correct, and number two, scaring them.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, we've been told about, you just said jurisdiction there, and before you actually go challenging the law, we were told that you have to prove that they have jurisdiction over you in the first place. And one of the things over here in Ireland anyway, what we've been told is that obviously law is assumed or presumed. And there's an assumption that as you're in the land of Ireland or the land of America or UK, that the laws apply to you. But that's only an assumption or a presumption. There's no physical evidence that we know of that actually states on paper that the laws apply to you. It's only assumed. Again, you mentioned earlier that when you go into court, the judge assumes and presumes things straight away without even saying anything. So maybe one of these presumptions and assumptions is that the laws apply to you because you're in the country. So we were told that if you turn around and go, look, if you show us, if you can provide us with physical evidence that law applies to me, then I'm okay with that. Now, over here in Ireland, we have a law called the Gary Doyle. So you can get a thing called the Gary Doyle order. And a Gary Doyle order is got to do with being fully transparent and having all documentation given on what's required for the case. So maybe that's something that people can ask for in the courts. But one of the things was, show us the physical evidence that this law applies to me. Because hearsay is inadmissible in court. So, and obviously they'll be huffing and puffing and whatever. But if you go, well, look, in court you're supposed to have evidence. If it's only like hearsay, where's the evidence? Surely there has to be evidence. I don't know. How does that sit with you?
Well, again, from my perspective, I have a bigger understanding of it. So that's lex mercatoria.
Oh, so that's the same thing.
Well, that's law merchant, where you don't have to have. It's not based on evidence.
Right. Okay.
It's based on affidavit. Yeah. See, so here's the thing: common law has stringent rules about evidence, and of course, cases took months and weeks, and but at the international fairs that used to happen, in the Middle Ages, people were only there for a week or two or a month, and then they moved on, or a ship was only in until the tide came in, and then it's gone. Like it catches that next tide. So if there was a dispute, it had to be dealt with now. Like there was no. So a lot of the court case, so-called court cases, were based on, you got called at 9 o'clock, then at 10 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock. That was your 3 times. It was within an hour, not days or weeks, because the tide was leaving at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they had to have a decision. Mm. So things move very quickly. So what they did is they moved that whole system into the common law and didn't tell anybody.
Right.
So that's why you're standing there, and And they're operating in some weird way that doesn't make sense to you because you don't understand it. You weren't taught it.
Okay, because one of the things, obviously, with this proving that they have their judicial rights over you is sending in a notice of appearance in the court saying, well, if you can give me this information, the physical information that I request, then I will turn up in the court. Otherwise, I'm not going to turn up because there's no evidence. But you're saying that won't work because that's got to do with evidence and it's not a commercial thing. It's not commerce.
Well, that's getting close because now you're saying, because in Lex Mercatoria, if somebody said this person didn't pay me or owes me money or whatever, it was based on a claim, and claim is the strongest word in law. You have to understand that too. So it was a claim, and anybody can make a claim. I can say, Alan, you owe me $1 million, and I just made a claim. But here's the thing: I could make that stick because I know how the system works, and if you don't answer in the proper way, then it stands as truth.
Yeah. Well, we've heard that over here in Ireland. Now, I don't know how people have tried it, and it hasn't really worked. But apparently you can make your own laws as a sovereign person, that you can actually get them notified, and you can say, I'm going to be driving my car with no license or no insurance or whatever it is, no insurance or no license. And and you write that and you send that to the Attorney General or whoever you have to write it to, the Department of Transport, or the police commissioner or whatever, and if they don't rebuke that in like 14 days or 30 days, that is the new law for you. Now, is that true? Can you do that?
That's getting close to how Lex Mercatoria works. So you just have to kind of get more into the money thing and create a contract like that. So it's based on tacit agreement. So tacit agreement is because you didn't say no, then you've said yes.
Yeah.
So when they give you that speeding ticket, the first thing when you get pulled over by the police, here is there. The first thing that guy, the officer is going to say is, "Can I see your license?"
Yeah.
First thing, because he has to establish, are you contracted in?
Yeah. We call it over here subject matter jurisdiction.
Yes, that's correct. So once he establishes you have a license, then all the speeding laws apply to you because you've agreed to when you applied for that license to obey. That's how they're doing it.
So basically what happens, obviously the police aren't aware of the system. So if you send back your license, for example, and you say, I don't want this license, and in 30 days, if you do not rebut what I have written, then from now on I can travel. Now this is what we've also heard is that you as a sovereign person, if it's private and travelling, you actually technically don't need a license. You only need a license for commercial. And so basically the problem is that if you were to do that and you're stopped by the police and you say, I don't have a license, of course the police don't understand the system because they're not trained in it. And then they start getting abusive. If you say, well, I don't have a license, and then they just think that, the laws they're told or they're trained are right, and then they arrest you or take the car off you or something like that. And this is where all the hassle starts.
Yeah, that's correct. So like I said, it's not an easy road. But even beyond the license, even if you send back your license, they can still, like a judge can still make an assumption because you're on the voters list. Like they have so many ways of making sure that you're number one, agreeing to the system, and number two, a merchant, so that they can use merchant law on you.
Yeah. Well, I've personally, from over here, as our listeners know, I have deregistered from the voting system because I don't trust it. So I am deregistered. But yeah, no, we've heard a lot of people trying this, where they've gone in, they've had the paperwork notified, they've done all the legal research, and they've sent the letters to the relevant people, and they get pulled up by the police, and their car gets taken off them. They get arrested for not having a license or tax or whatever, and they go into court, or they're brought to court for whatever reason and they're fined or jailed and nobody wins. Because if they were to win, as you know, it would set a precedent and then everybody would be doing it. So it's in the interest of the 1% or the legal system, even if it's right, to make sure that they don't win.
Correct. Or they'll just dismiss the case.
Yeah.
And that's usually the only win you're going to get. You're never going to win. You're never going to get a judgment in your favor. I haven't seen that. So what normally happens is that the case goes away, or they, just make it disappear in some way.
So does that mean that if it's working for you, why is it working for you? Obviously that must have set a precedent and other people can copy what you're doing.
Yes, but like as I said from the beginning, and just as you just described, they're going to test you. So you're going to have a couple of losses, but then you either go, oh, that didn't work, and you put your tail between your legs and stick your head in the ground, and I can go, no, I'm not backing down. That's the difference. So I'm the type of person who just the way I was born, I'm not going to back down when I know, if I believe strongly in what I believe. So I just kept going.
Okay.
So it takes a little bit. It's not for everybody, and there's no magic piece of paper that's just going to switch. It's more of a has to happen on the inside of you, each person, to realize who you are, and the system can bring that out in you, or it can make you just go back and become stay a slave.
Yeah, I think it just depends on your situation. Whether you're in a position to be able to challenge the system and have a backup, or put it this way: if you're doing the family. If you're in a family situation with kids and school runs and all that kind of stuff, the last thing you want to be doing is challenging the system, because, if things do go left of centre, then, it could cause major problems with, the rest of your family or life in general. So I think you have to be in a position where you can actually allow for things not going your way until you get to a stage where you understand where you're going. One of the listeners did say, on the People's Internet Radio, he said, "No, Alan, you ask, do I need a license to travel? And of course, you, the man, do not need any paperwork to travel." Well, that's right. We've heard that if you're travelling privately, you don't need a driving license. It's only for you need a license for commercial. And there's a difference between travelling and driving. Okay, driving is commercial and travelling is private. Carl, I want to get into the foreclosures and evictions, because that's a very, very big thing over here, and I'm sure it is in Canada and America. And we have had issues where I just mentioned to you just before we went live about a lady who was in court in front of the judge, and in our Irish Constitution it states the word dwelling as the family home. And it's inviolable in accordance to law. And basically we've had a lot of bailiffs turn up to do foreclosures, and they don't have the proper paperwork from the courts. They don't have the proper order. There's no wet ink signature from the judge, or could be an administrator might have signed it instead of the judge. And all these scams are going on. But the one thing about the dwelling is that this lady was in court and she said to the judge that it's my dwelling, and the judge kept saying no, it's property, and no, it's my dwelling. And 3 times she said dwelling, and she actually got contempt of court and was actually locked up until she purged her contempt. This is the problem over here, and maybe in America and the UK as well, we're dealing with when you're dealing with the banks. It's very, very difficult. What's your experience? Have you done any work with foreclosures?
Yeah, I did. I helped one couple with a foreclosure, and it's a long story, but yeah. So I'm very aware of it. But the whole mortgage idea, and then the word mortgage is death gauge. So they're kind of telling you right in the beginning that it's not a good thing. But the whole mortgage thing and any loan starts with a promissory note. And So that's the first piece of paper that comes up. I'm sort of, generalizing. This is from their perspective. They got to have that promissory note. So once you sign the promissory note in Lex Mercatoria is the money on the face of it. So you've just created the money by signing a promissory note. The bank takes that from you, sticks it behind the banker sitting there, sticks it behind his back. He says, okay, now my bank account just went up the exact amount of this promissory note. And it turns out how much you want to borrow. So you just borrowed your own money, just so you understand that.
Yeah.
So you want to bring that out, and it's a difficult thing to do, but you definitely want to bring that out, that you created the money, and you have to be able to show why. Don't just blurt that out, because they'll just say, well, that's nonsense. So you have to do a little bit of research and understand how that works using, Bills of Exchange Act, and I'm sure you have one, and show that the promissory note is the money on the face of it. So there was nothing lent. Therefore, they can't foreclose on you. Based on the mortgage itself. Now, people that get into second mortgages and stuff, they have clauses in there, and because you signed it, you've agreed that they can just shut it down any time. But just on a straight, basic mortgage, that's where you want to attack on that.
Well, over here, about securitization, and this happens with all banks. They do it with, at the moment in Ireland, the banks are selling off a lot of the properties to vulture funds that are coming into the country, and just the 7-day notice letters being sent out to people, and people have a right to go to court and argue the point. But the problem with the securitization is that, as far as I know, and I can, if the listeners are, know of, have a result on this, any information regarding it. But as far as I know, there has been no win in court regarding securitization. Now, I don't know whether that's down to, obviously, the bankers or the judges being involved, or whether the judges not being aware of securitization. Sometimes they're not familiar with fractional reserve banking. But I know people that have gone in and argued the point, and I don't know of anybody as of to date that has won trying to prove the securitization and the fact that the bank do not own it, but they've sold on the actual mortgage. Again, we have central bank rules over here, but it's not really a law. They're supposed to notify the owner of the mortgage before they actually sell it on, but that really doesn't happen. So tell us about, what way, are you saying that we have to approach the mortgage situation from a commerce again? We have to approach it from that way?
Yes. You have to approach everything from commerce, because that's how the banks have done this. The banks are running things, and therefore the banking families. And they're using old systems, and they just didn't tell anybody. So you got to go back into Lex Mercatoria and even into Hammurabi Code, ancient Babylon. This is all ancient stuff.
Yeah. And
the whole idea that you just talked about, that you can have ownership without possessing things. That's all part of that whole system.
The fact that the judge was adamant that he didn't want to use the word dwelling, even though it's in our constitution, what's your thoughts on that?
He wanted to stay in commerce because he's safe there. The minute this moves into a common law thing, well, that's a whole other thing, because that's her dwelling and she has possession of it, like she lives there.
Yeah.
Where this other thing is a piece of paper that says I have some kind of interest in it.
Yeah. So that's what we have to focus on, really. Now, we're going to go off to questions. We have a few questions coming in, as I knew would happen. Loads of legal questions, and we will get to them. But I found the order I mentioned before the show. We have a person over here, a chap called Ben Gilroy, who's been fantastic in helping people in court as a Mackenzie friend. And he got an order the other day, and over here in Ireland, it's called the Isaac Wunder Court. The Isaac Wunder Order. And an Isaac Wunder Order is an order issued by an Irish court restricting the ability of a vexatious litigant to institute legal proceedings without leave from that or another court, whether for a specified period of time or indefinitely. So basically, because Ben has been in court on a regular basis helping people, they've kind of said, right, okay, enough's enough, we're not having him in here, because Ben knows the system, and he's challenging the system, and they don't like it. So they've issued this Isaac Wunder order to Ben, basically stopping him from going into court. So,
well, I'm sure Ben can handle that if because they can't make an order like that. You can come into any court as amicus curiae, and that's normal proceedings.
We've heard.
Go
ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they just don't like what he's doing because he's obviously winning and getting to the root of the matter, and they don't like it. So they're going to try and send him a piece of paper saying you can't come here, but it's just a piece of paper with writing on it.
Yeah, they're throwing the toys out of the pram, aren't they? They don't like it. We've also heard from another chap that's on the internet. He does a lot of talking on legal stuff, and he said that when a judge makes an order, if he's in court and a judge makes an order and he doesn't like the order, he can walk out of the courtroom and go to and fill out some paperwork and just cancel the order that the judge just did. Does that make sense to you?
The fellow can do that?
Yeah, you as a person. If you're not happy with the order that the judge makes, this chap actually said that he walks out and he just nullifies the order that the judge just made.
I don't see it being impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's I've never heard of that, but I can understand if depending on what he did ahead of time. I can tell you this: I bonded some cases that were not my own after I kind of learned things, and some very strange things happened. They wouldn't call the case unless I was there.
Oh, okay.
And there was a bunch of other things that one judge cleared the courtroom so that I could talk to an incarcerated. Man that was on trial.
Yeah.
Because he was looking at me for answers, and he goes, "You seem to be wanting to speak to that man. Would it be helpful if you could just speak to him?" And so they tried to set up a room for us, and the sheriff said, "No, you need to phone in," because they wanted to record the. And I said, no, the judge said I could speak to him privately. He says, no, we're not letting you. So I went back up into the courtroom, and the judge goes, well, did you get to speak to him? I said, no, they wouldn't let me. Okay, everybody out of the courtroom. They're going to have the meeting right here in my courtroom. And the prosecutor goes, you can't do that. And he goes, yes, I can. And, so I saw some strange things based on what I did. So once you get control of the case, like once you're the bonding and indemnifying it, you call the shot. So, yeah, you could go and change an order.
Okay, that's it. Well, if I find the video, I'll send it over to you. Just out of your interest, you might be interested to see what this chap says and how he did it, because it's all about learning. I'll try and track it down for you. We're going to go over to the questions because we have loads of questions coming in, as we thought we knew we would. So, Steve, well, over to you and all the questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of hive of activity on the chat rooms there. So. Yeah, thanks to everyone who's participating and contributing so far. Keep the questions coming in. Okay, we'll go to Peter's question. Peter is in Australia. Peter is wondering, can you tell me how Judge Kavanaugh's appointment to the Justice of Supreme Court in America changes everything, and why are they worried about what he can do to the bad guys?
Well, I'm number one, I'm a Canadian, but I'm following it a little bit. From what I can tell, the judge that they appointed will allow them to do military tribunals instead of going into courts for arresting certain people for certain actions that are unspeakable.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what were you saying last week, Alan? Is something that he wasn't a very favourable character, but Trump had to get him in. This is supposed to be part of Trump's bigger plan with draining, as he says, draining the swamp. Yeah,
he basically the idea of Democrats very, very quickly. Actually, you know what? If people want to know a bit more about this, if you tune into the United We Start podcast. We spent an hour talking about it yesterday. So if you want to find out about the whole Kavanagh situation and our thoughts on it, we had the international roundtable. Matt is over in Oregon, and myself, Detlev, and Michael, we spoke about it there. So if you want to know more about it, pop over to the podcast and you can listen to it over there, because we want to get through the questions here. Steve.
Okay, from People's Internet Radio, it says Cal is setting out his terms before he goes in, and he's doing it in writing, which is good. And Graham says, question for Cal: what is your opinion on sending the court paperwork back to the court and asking for all the words to be defined as it is in full caps dog Latin and not defined in plain English as in the Oxford Concise Dictionary? Would that be advisable to send it back and ask them to put it into plain English, whatever they may be sending out to you?
Yes, and anything, because everything they do is an offer in commerce. You got to look at it from that perspective. So they're trying to portray themselves as a court and that they have some kind of authority over you. And unless you, actually the best way to do it is to conditionally accept. I will accept all your assumptions and presumptions and your claims if you can prove it, rather than going, no, I disagree. So that's how commerce works. It's always yes, I will if you can, and if you don't, then I'm going to double back on you. It's like a shotgun clause, and that's why if everybody understood the system, it would self-correct. You could never take advantage of somebody because it would double back on you. So that you want to ask questions, get them to prove something. Anything that they and generally they can't because they're lying, and that's the problem. So that's your starting point. You're getting the idea of how to do this.
Can I just go back a bit on what I said about the whole assumption and presumption regarding jurisdiction, and the fact that they more than likely, and as far as I know, they don't have physical evidence that the law applies to the people if they're in the country of Ireland or the UK. So does that make sense to you to even ask that question? I mean, I agree with what you say. You never say no. You always say, yeah, I fully accept to pay the bill and I'll fully accept to pay the money, but you have to give me X, Y, and Z.
As you said before, that's remaining in honour, isn't it?
Yeah, remaining in honour, yeah.
That's correct. So that's proper lex mercatoria negotiation. So it's just setting up a contract. So that's at the meeting of the minds. As a claim, and you can claim whatever you want, and if it's somehow infringing upon me that I have to give something to you, then I will go, okay, I see your claim. If you can prove your claim, then I will honor it. If you can't, then you have to pay me double.
Brilliant. And you can actually say that. Like, if you say, provide me with the evidence, and if you cannot provide me with the evidence, then there's going to be a fee of $3,000 for upsetting me for sending this in the first place, or whatever the wording is.
Correct. That's when the judge is going to not want to participate, want to get out of the room, because now he's stuck. The game is over. Somebody's playing the game at my level or higher sometimes, and I'm done. Like I'm not playing. Brilliant.
Okay. Yeah. I mean that sounds interesting. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one though. There's a few things coming in the door. Steve.
Yeah, Graham says, as Alan talked about earlier about Ben Gilroy being what's known as a Mackenzie friend. Now, I don't know if that term is a worldwide term or if it's just going to be used in this area. But he does say a Mackenzie friends are without voice in legal wonderland. And in relation, you mentioned there amicus curiae. Now I'm just wondering, is amicus curiae the same as a Mackenzie friend, or if you go into a court as amicus curiae, do you have more of a voice?
Well, it gets you some standing in their language and in their terms, and I think in numerous jurisdictions, because the position and the term exists. And so it just means friend of the court. So I'm here as a friend of the court, and therefore I'm going to speak. I may not be a party to the to the action, but I'm here and to help in any way possible, right? So, and I've gotten in many times, and I've gotten in as they were trying to make me sit down, and I said, no, I'm a verified witness, because I had witnessed an affidavit and a few other paperworks, and I said, I'm verified by Her Majesty's notary. And they're all like, so they were, the room all thing, and they were all jittery, and they didn't know what to do. So there's numerous ways of getting in there to help people, and yeah, I mean they can be thugs, and I've seen people dragged out and arrested in courtrooms and numerous times, and it's not a fun place. It's not something to be trifled with, but you can get victory over them. You can.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's not a fun place, and people have been dragged out of court, regardless whether they're right or wrong. We've had it over here where the police come in and just drag people or brought them down to the cells to chill out for a period of time. It's happened over here, so we know that there's been cases of that. Steve?
Yeah, we just have some information saying a Mackenzie friend assists a litigant in person in a court of law in England and Wales, Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland and Australia. This person does not need to be legally qualified. So I'm guessing then there is some degree of separation between an amicus curiae and a Mackenzie friend. So obviously that we may need to pass that information on to Ben if he's not already aware of it. And hopefully that the amicus curiae will also be admissible in the court system here. Where we go next? Joan says, we are the people of Eire, people of the land of Eire. We are not citizens, which is a fiction, the same as a corporation that controls most of the world, but run by Ireland Incorporated, i.e. the corporation. That's more of a comment than a question, but I suppose, that's pretty much standard. That's kind of the world over.
Well, just to clarify on my understanding on the citizen, the deal is, as a citizen, that you pay all, the bills they throw at you, all the property tax and all that, and they protect you. But, I woke up in the morning and not seen any Gardaí standing outside my property, protecting my property.
You're not important enough, Alan.
Exactly. So that's my understanding. So if they're not doing their half of the contract or their half of the agreement, then why should I do half of their agreement? Does that make sense, Carl?
Well, maybe you should contact them and tell them you need protection.
Yeah. Carl? Does that make sense, Carl?
Yeah. The whole thing, the taxes is mostly to go to pay the loans that come from the international banks that they print out of nothing and charge interest for. And if we could just stop that, things would change drastically. So, but that's the system, and everybody that gets into politics knows that, or they find out very quickly once they're in, and they go along with it. So that's just how it's all working. And the rest of us at the bottom are the peons that are paying for all this.
Yeah, we've talked about the tax in Ireland and the whole history of it, and the fact that it was always voluntary. And we actually have evidence from a lady who was the head of the Inland Revenue called Josephine Veely, who actually did the talk in the McGill School. And we have a printed copy of this, which was on the Inland Revenue website, where 3 times she states that we are taxed by consent.
Yeah. Yeah, and the same in Canada, same in the United States. If you fill out a tax form, or if you vote, or there's numerous ways to agree to it. Once you've agreed, then they can enforce it upon you because it's a contract. Mm. So you have to understand that and disagree in the proper way, and then you can be left alone.
Would that be jurisdiction then, going back to that and saying, or would you have to opt out? Because I noticed that when I deregistered as a voter, I was ready for a fight. I was ready to, on the email, to say, right, if they say no, I'm going to, that's slavery and all that kind of stuff. But they just kind of said, okay, it gives your details, bang, and they took me off the system. And I said, great, I'm now off the voting register. I'm not on the system. I can't vote, which is fair enough. I take it it's the same way maybe with the tax, that we have to send a letter in and say, by the way, I'm not planning to pay tax anymore. involved in your system anymore. Now, obviously, it's probably a lot harder to do that. You'd have to get the right wording. But what would be that approach? Would that be the right approach to do it?
Yeah, because again, it's all just commerce. It's all contract. So they claim that, that they have this Income Tax Act or whatever it is, however they're doing it in Ireland, but here it's an Income Tax Act, and therefore you have to pay taxes. But it's voluntary, and if you do file, then you have agreed. So then that's when they go after the money, right? So if you don't file, that's a little dicey, and then they'll say that they'll try and force you to file, and that's where you're going to start to clash with them. But at the end of the day, it's still just lex mercatoria. They're getting agreement, and if you disagree in the proper way by conditional acceptance, then you can get out of things.
Okay, that's very interesting. It's good that we're talking about this. I mean, we did always feel it's all got to do with revenue and commerce, because it's always got to do with money, isn't it? At the end of the day, and I know people have approached in court different things, maybe not approached it from a commercial point of view, and it's a good way to look at things. They're trying to get money off you. You don't want to give it to them, so you have to ask them to justify it. And we have more questions for you there, Carl. Steve?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I've said this a couple of years ago on the show. I'll just say it again. Cal, I actually have a friend, and his wife works in the tax office over here, the revenue, and I had a conversation with her several years ago in relation to the whole tax thing, saying that it was voluntarily, and she said no, it's mandatory, and I said no, it's voluntarily, and I said, and we had a discussion about it, and I said there is no law that says that we are required to pay tax, and she said there is, I'll find it for you. So she went to her buddies in the tax office, people higher up the food chain, and she came back to me about 14 days later, and she had a different kind of a look on her face, and she said, where did you get this information from? And I said, it's common enough information. And she said she had asked of her colleagues in the tax office, and they went searching, and they came back to her, and they were quite surprised that they couldn't find it either. A law that says that we are required to pay tax. So it's very interesting, and I like what you're saying, that if you approach it from the right angle, and get them to try and prove it, that you are required to pay it, and if they can't, well then, it does open up a can of worms. What was that? Aaron Russo? Was it Aaron Russo?
Freedom to Fascism.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of that, and that was a very powerful documentary there a long time ago.
It was. You got more questions there?
So it is voluntary, and but once they kind of get you in, or if they make a claim that you owe taxes and you don't answer it in the correct way, then they can make it stick.
Okay, that's a concern. See, it's, again, as you said, it's important, the wording and how you do it and what you write back. Now, a lot of people, Cal, as you know, are not legally trained, and we've been told that you don't try think like a solicitor if you're not a solicitor. Write it in plain English, in what you understand. Now, that could be the wrong way, because then you could be walking into something.
Well, it really comes down to understanding that there is another jurisdiction above what we've been told, and that's what I'm going to keep pounding this in, because it's going to take a while to sink in. You have to go back to lex mercatoria and understand that is actually in our courtrooms, but we're just not told. So everything is a negotiation. Everything is done by claims. Everything is done by affidavit. So I can literally, in this system, go to either you, Alan, or Steve, and say, you owe me $1 million. And if you don't answer correctly, it actually sticks. And I can have a full-on document that I could sell into the banking system with your name on it. That's how it works. And so, again, it sounds really heinous, but if you knew what I knew, it wouldn't work, because you would go, prove that I owe $1 million, and if you can't, then you owe me $2 million. So I would never try that on you.
Right, okay, and that's probably obviously why the system's backed off with you, because they know you know the system, And
exactly.
And they're not going to challenge you because they'll be out of pocket, and that's the last thing they want.
Exactly.
Right.
And therefore, and they can't say that you can't do that because they're doing it all the time. So it's basically taking their own stuff and feeding it to them.
So you're taking the lunch money off the bully.
Yeah.
Basically. All right, we have more questions for you there, Carl. Steve.
Yeah, I hope no one listening to this sends us a bill for $1 million or €1 million. Because if you do, we'll just get Carl on the case.
Yeah, we'll ring up Carl.
We will. Anyway, Peter says, the electric meter box on the side of my house. If the electric company owns the meter, do I own the metal box that the power meter lives in? And since I own the box, can I legally lock them out from getting to my meter? That's the question. I'm just going to throw a little bit onto that before you take it, Cal. I know you can't lock them out from reading the meter, as far as I know. But if they want to change, I think where Peter's coming from is they may try to force them to have a smart meter.
Well, first of all, can I just add to that onto your bit?
Yes.
First of all, they have to trespass on your property to get to the meter. And,
yes.
At the end of the day...
And what was that again? What's the name of that where they something access?
Yeah, you remove their right of access.
Right of access, yeah.
And you say, I'm removing your right of access and you're trespassing on the property. So before they even read the meter, they're trespassing on your property. So, Carl, I don't know are you making something there in the background?
There was somebody working on the window out there.
Oh, right, okay. I thought I
think they're trying to get your attention, but they're falling.
Sounds like somebody has a hammer there. You're making something on the side. It's going so well done, doing an interview and making something, the coffee table as well. That's brilliant. So, what do you think about that question from Peter regarding the electric meter?
Yeah, they generally have a rite of passage to read your meter. You do own the box that it's sitting in. They own the meter, so there is this contact where it gets a little bit dicey. But we've done a notice of liability document that basically says if you change my meter, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars per day. So, we've gone into Lex Mercatoria. I don't want your meter, but if you're going to force it on me, it's going to cost you.
Okay. But do you think that the person would be right to actually lock... I mean, they could cut little windows so the meter could be read in the actual box, but actually lock the box where they can't get into it.
Yes, and people have done that here and throughout the world in various ways. And there's been mixed, reactions and bullying techniques and arrests and all. So each place is a little different about how they react to it. So I can't really advise to do that because I don't know the person and how strong they are to be able to withstand if they really get aggressive on this. So. But yes, you can obviously do that, and as long as they can read it, you're complying with all the requirements.
Okay, no problem. And we got more questions for you there. I reckon what you do is the guy who's hammering there, if you write up a quick claim and tell him that if he doesn't stop hammering, you're going to sue him for $1 million.
That'll be very good. Yeah, Shane is wondering there, Cal, is it possible to sue a judge if you reckon he's not following the law? I think Cal is actually having words.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, brilliant. That was a quick letter. Well done. Okay.
Anyway, right, back to the question. Anyway, sorry, Cal. Shane was wondering, is it possible to sue a judge if you reckon the judge is not following the law?
Well, suing is the wrong word because you'd have to go into a court and you're not going to win there. So, if the thing about Lex Mercatoria, I'm going to keep saying this, it's not done in a court. So it was done merchant to merchant, mano a mano. There was obviously tribunals when there was disputes, but so what I would do, what I did, and made judges run out of the room and retire, and I saw this over and over. So I just did commerce on them. If you make me come here, or you do whatever that I don't agree with, then it's going to cost you money, and that's the thing. So, everything is about money.
So the InPower Movement, which we obviously need to talk about as well. Do you have these letters or documents available for people to download and use in their jurisdiction or the country they're in to help them? I know you're going to be at the end of the show, we're going to get all your contacts, and you're coming over to the UK in November to do a talk, which is great to share this information. What's the InPower Movement all about? As I say, is all this information available for people, for the layman?
Well, the InPower Movement is a friend of mine did a documentary on the smart meters. That just came up, and they tried going into court and class action suits and petitions and going to all these things that they put out there for us that we think are our rights, and none of it worked. Like they just got ignored. So he knew that I had done some with my own cases, and he said, "Can you do something on the smart meter thing?" So I said, "Yeah," because everything's commerce. So wrote a fairly lengthy document, and so each person can, number one, disagree with the meter and conditionally accept the meter if they throw it on, and then charge them a fee. And so we've tried it out in 3 different cities, 2 American cities and 1 city, and each case, some high-level people step down from their position.
Okay, that's
so that's the successes that we've had. We've kept some meters off; others have gotten the meters, but of course, they're the daily fees. So,
okay, and have anybody received? Because I've heard about this process before, where they will send a fee schedule for whatever price they want to charge for X, Y, and Z, and basically it just gets ignored.
Well, you can't just send a fee schedule. You can't just go, "I'm going to charge you a fee schedule." You have to get into the contract part of it. Otherwise they will ignore you. Here's the beauty of the smart meters is that they have initiated the contract by changing the meters. And so they do it by notice, and that's all common law and lex mercatoria. So there's always a notice that goes out, and if you don't say no, you've said yes. So we are taking their notice. We actually hand it back to them, because that's part of the process. Is, here's your notice where you started the contract negotiations. Here's my negotiation. Here's my counter offer. I don't want your meter. If you put it on, then I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars per day.
Will they not say...
You have 30 days.
Okay. Well, Skype...
Yeah, so you have to go through this process before you can establish that fee schedule. You can't just send a fee schedule. Okay.
And just so we're having a few problems with Skype breaking up there. So would they not say that as you're using the electricity and you're paying your bills and all, that is actually consent that you've given because you've agreed to your electricity contract?
You've agreed to buy electricity, but the monitoring, the analog monitors just as well as the digital. So the digital, or the smart meter, is, well, it's a weapon, number one, and so that's why they're pushing this out. And but there's no benefit to the consumer to have this meter. They say there is, but it's just not showing up. People are getting sick, and their bills go up. So there's no upside to it.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not a good contract that I want to enter into. And I have the right, under lex mercatoria, to enter into contracts or not enter into contracts. And if you force me, then I'm going to charge you.
Okay, that's brilliant. Great information. Do you have more questions for Carl there?
I do indeed. Graham was wondering who do you send the court documents back to when rebutting? He says over here the court send the summons. It's never a man or a woman who send the summons. It just comes from the court. So who do you suggest returning the documents to?
The clerk of the court.
The clerk of the court. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully that answers that one for Graham. Have we anything else? We have we have the links as well for your up and coming show in the UK. No more questions at the moment. If anyone else has any more questions, it is 20 past the hour, so yeah, get them in as quickly as you can, please.
Brilliant stuff. So let's get back to the empowerment movement, Carl. The website's set up. You've got some videos, great information. Tell us more about the website, and what Steve has just been on the website there, and you have document templates there as well for people to download. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, we have them for the United States and Canada, and we have an approved one for Australia and New Zealand on the smart meter. We're working on the UK one. We're hoping to have it ready in the next week or so. And then we have one for forced vaccinations for the United States, and we're working on the 5G one for the United States.
Okay, that's interesting. It would be great to have, obviously, an Irish version. Now, I know you mentioned the Bills of Exchange Act. I actually don't know whether we have that. Now, I know in the UK there is some kind of Bills of Exchange Act, but I don't know whether that applies to us. I don't know enough about the legality of it or whether that applies. Maybe somebody in the chat room can confirm that for us. But would that cause us a problem? Do we have it, Steve? Do we have a...
It says that we do. We have a Bills of Exchange Act from 1882. That can be found on the Irish statute book .ie. I'll post the link in the chat.
Okay, so we do have something there got to do with the Bills of Exchange Act. Probably worthwhile checking up on that. There might be updates to it as well. But, Carl, acts and statutes. There's always been an argument about what are acts and statutes. And an act, as far as we've been told, stands for Advanced Corporation Tax. And there's always the arguments that acts and statutes are not enforceable. Can you tell us a bit more about your understanding of acts and statutes?
Well, I call them the acts and the statute thing. Well, here in Canada, we have a real anomaly, and we are still a colony. We don't actually have a country here. So they've, and Pierre Trudeau, the current PM's father, tried to fix it in 1982, but it still didn't get fixed. And so they can't sign any of the acts and statutes. So I'm not sure what's happening where you live, but I would almost guess they're supposed to get royal assent, and they're not. Because that's pretty standard in the Commonwealth, so-called countries. Yeah. So the Queen is still the final thing, and they try and portray it like it's not, but it's actually, that's how it's still being run. And if you look at her oath from 1952, you'll see the word possessions in there. And so just read it with an open mind and try and figure out what that means. And because there's a bunch of so-called countries that are listed, and then there's her other possessions. So are these all her possessions?
Well, we always believe that we don't own, even though we own their houses, or we have a mortgage out. Even people that have paid the mortgage and think they own the house, it's actually not their house. The land
That's right.
The land is owned by, the Crown, I suppose.
Yeah. So I'm going to touch on this religion thing. So here's the thing. She can have those, and you got to read her oath and read it a few times. Very cleverly written. So she can have these possessions as long as she upholds a Bible. So, without getting into religion, think of the Bible as just words on a paper bound into a book, but it is a contract. because she swore an oath to uphold it. So all this talk about, the Bible and religion, and it's designed to keep us from looking at that book in the correct way.
Well, isn't that an oxymoron? So, the fact that you have to swear on it, and in the Bible you're not supposed to be swearing.
Yeah, but again, it's a contract. Just look at it as a contract. Don't get into that type of thing, because that's what makes you. I'll tell you this: every time I do a talk, when I get to the Bible part, I know there's going to be a problem. At which, think about that for a second. Why? And so I always ask the question: who does not have an opinion about the Bible? And so far, of all the talks that I've done, one lady put her hand up and said, I don't actually have an opinion. Everybody else has an opinion. And so I don't ask what the opinion is. Then I ask, who has read it? That's when about less than a quarter of the people put up their hands. So then I go, well then, everybody else, your opinion, no matter what it is, good or bad, it can't be your own opinion. You got it from somebody else.
Yeah.
So there's all these little things out there to make us not look at that book. But it's the contract. And if you can hold those that are in control of this world, and you'll notice that almost all of the controllers have to swear an oath on the Bible. Like, they have to uphold it.
But okay, so for argument's sake, I could, if you go to court, one of us would go to court, and you sit down and you say, well, we swear in the Bible before the court begins, and you go, well, actually, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in the Bible.
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, again, you can be an atheist. This is the thing. Leave the religion out of it. The reason why the Bible is in the court is because it's the contract, it's the law, and nobody looks at it, nobody brings it up. It's in full-on evidence in every case, and nobody goes there. Oh, I'm an atheist, I'm not going to touch that. So it's like, why wouldn't you just forget the religion, forget the organs that are around it, and all the teachings and everything about it? Look at it as a benign document that has a bunch of words in it, and maybe go in and find out if there's some words that might be to your advantage. Okay. So see, because you can take it right to the Queen, and they're all swearing oaths to the Queen, and if they're under oath to her, then they're basically under her oath. So look at her oath, and then look at what she has to uphold. Yeah. And whether you agree with it or not, religious-wise, it doesn't matter. Go in there and find some stuff that might help you. Okay, that's interesting. Steve, you got a question for Cal?
A couple of more questions. Yeah, Dougie's just wondering, could you not challenge the Queen that her real name is not Windsor? He said he can't remember what the real name is, but
Gottenkoberg or something like that, some German name.
All right. Yeah. Could we challenge that? I wonder.
No. Again, there's actually a story of her oath is bunk because some Scots took the Rock of Destiny and changed it like 300 years ago. All these things, there's so many stories to make you forget the Queen. It doesn't matter if her name is Windsor or Jones or Smith. You can look at this is the only coronation that. So we have we have access to it. That woman, I don't care what her name is, it doesn't matter. She has possessions, and it's based on her contract on a book called the Bible. That's the story here, people.
And I suppose people can go down the different rabbit holes, which is a way of distracting people to the real truth, yes. Which is, this is the contract, this is the Bible, and that's it. Okay.
That's it.
Steve.
That doesn't matter her name.
Yeah.
Cal, I don't know if you have this over in Canada, but there's one variation of it here and a kind of a slightly different variation in the UK, and Liam is wondering what your thoughts are on a TV license. Basically, if you watch live TV in the UK, you're required to have a TV license. In Ireland, if you own a TV, you are required to have a TV license. Again, it's a broadcasting act or whatever it may be. But this, the money raised goes directly to the state broadcaster, which we feel is a kind of a mouthpiece for the government for the propaganda. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously using some of the information that you describe and have templates on the site, I'm sure we can circumvent this and get around it.
Can I add into that? RTE is a semi-state body, so it's half owned by the government and half owned by shareholders. So there's the commerce angle.
That's right. Yeah, I've never heard of that. That's taking things to a new level. So, yeah, it's just another money grab, and you just approach it in commerce. So, as Alan said, there's some aspect of it that's commercial. So, yeah,
no, it totally is. And what's happening is, and I don't know whether people are beginning to realise, especially over here in Ireland, they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I mean, there's pen pushers in the government who are look at everything and every way to try and get every single penny off you. And until we start standing up and putting our foot down and doing something about these parasites that are in government, I personally call them parasites, politicians, because that's what they are. They're not in it for anybody else except themselves, and they're part of a corporate government. We know we have a provisional government in Ireland. It's not a real government. It's a commercial government. We don't have a republic, and we can see that in the courts, because if you look at the HARP, if that was a proper court, you'd have the HARP with air underneath. But when you go into court, all you see is the HARP. You don't see EIRE, which means that we're in a commercial court.
Right. Yeah, and it's the same through so-called Commonwealth countries. It's all corporations operating as governments. And here in Canada, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but if you do a little research here, it's really obvious, because they had when they first came here, there was a corporation called the Hudson Bay Company. And it actually ran as a government, and it had a charter, Hudson Bay Charter, that outlaid all of everything. So it was very clear that this was a corporation that had courts and police and all the enforcement needed. But it was definitely a for-profit corporation, and it's still running like that.
Could you, just a question, when we talked about the police, and if they arrest you for whatever reason, you don't have a license, and they say, I'm going to arrest you. I mean, could you go after them personally? Because they, out of their ignorance, they're there to enforce the law, and if they, out of ignorance, do not know the law and what you're doing, and they just go ahead and they manhandle you, because of their ignorance, can you go after them?
Yes, in commerce, absolutely.
So you would find out their personal details, and then would you write to their inspector or write to them, or how would that work?
I would write to them personally. The last time that I got arrested, where I did the 60 days, as soon as they said you're under arrest, I said, well, then I'm exercising my right to remain silent. I will not be speaking to you after this, just so you know. I'm not being rude or trying to obstruct justice or anything like that, but I will not be speaking. And so I would just do that. And they would ask me all kinds of questions, and I would, say nothing. And then as soon as they got me to the courthouse, and once the took over from the police, and they actually changed handcuffs and everything, I said, oh, by the way, now I can speak to you because I'm under arrest from these people. I need your business card. And he went, because he knew who I was and knew what I was all about, and he knew what was going to be coming. And I didn't go after him because he's just trying to do, he's just a guy trying to do his job. But I could have.
Okay. Do you think that you would have won if you did?
Well, it's not a win. What you end up with is a security, which is what we talked about, how people are getting the foreclosures done. You end up with a security, and that security, you could put a lien on that officer or person, or you could sell it in the open market. Now that's been difficult until recently. So that's opening up. Okay. Because the banks are running debt paper. Like the world is just, you cannot run a system based on debt.
Yeah.
It's a mathematical paradox, and you just can't run negative. So they always are looking for more debt paper and getting people further and further into these debt situations. So
yeah, it's a pyramid scheme, and it's coming to the end of that scheme. Okay, well that's good to know, because obviously, if, as you said, if you could do this and to the police, maybe the police would actually start saying, well, okay, now I understand that you know this is how the system works. I'm not going to be arresting people willy-nilly out of my ignorance. I mean, that's a long path to travel. It's going to take a long time, but I can see the logic in that. We have more questions for you there, Steve.
Yeah, we have three more questions. Sorry, Cal, did you want to just come in there on that?
Yeah, I have to say I had lots, I don't know, hundreds of different scenarios with the police, and I have to say that there are those who are researching as much as the listeners here.
Okay.
They're trying to figure out what's going on too, and when you get them alone, they really open up and start going, hey, there's groups of us meeting, and we're trying to figure out all this, and like where can I research? So I've come across quite a few officers who had were very educated on what, and as you said, they were very they acted differently. They were very cordial and careful what they did and didn't do. There are others who are just still thugs basically, but there are officers who are researching, so it's better than you think.
Good. Okay, well that's good to know. We have 3 questions to get through, and that will bring us up to the air time.
Yeah, so I just want to say very quickly, thanks to everyone who participated this evening on the chat rooms for your questions. Much appreciated. Okay, last 3 questions. Can a living man own anything, or is it your strawman title only, Cal?
Well, in the system, it's your strawman, because that's how the system is set up. But again, I'm going to go back to the Bible, and what it says in there is, it says God created Adam, whatever that means, doesn't matter, but he gave him dominion. And that incensed the beings that were already here. But the queen has to uphold that. You see how powerful this can be?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we'll crack on there, Steve.
Powerful and confusing. Another question. What can you do, Cal, if your neighbour, let's say you don't have a smart meter, but your neighbour has a smart meter installed and you become ill? Do you write directly to their supplier, the CEO of the company, or what would be the best course of action?
Well, we go after, we sort of tell people to go after 4 respondents, and they're usually somebody from the utility, somebody from government, somebody from the installation company if it's different than the utility. But here's the thing, the paperwork is written up as they have to remove a meter at or near your dwelling or workplace. So it doesn't have to be your own meter that is the subject matter. And we also have we have terms in the contract that says all words are as the claimant understands them. An opportunity to take that clause out, but they don't. So it stands. So the word near becomes whatever you decide is near. So it can be, the neighbors or the next town, and
that could be very difficult, because your neighbour might decide that they want a smart meter, and they'll say, "Who the hell are you to stop me having a smart meter on my property?"
Yes, that's a possibility, but it'll have to be worked out as a negotiation between the three people if once we get there. But it hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, we'd have to wake up the neighbour and just give them the information, the evidence to say, look, these are dangerous, I'm telling you now. Okay, we've one more question, Steve.
Yeah, the last question is from Graham. Thanks, Graham. Cal, have you ever been threatened by the system's agents for going against the cabal?
Well, I've been arrested. I don't know, not been threatened, like with my life or anything like that. I've been through a lot of experiences. They've used technology in my house, and I thought it was just anxiety, and I couldn't sleep at night. And then I asked my daughters, I said, are you girls sleeping? And they said, no, Dad, I feel these waves coming through me. And that's when I went, okay, this is not in my own mind. I didn't tell them what I was experiencing. They told me. So I went, there's something actually happening here, right? So I've had that kind of thing, but I've not had any death threats or anything like that, no.
Okay, because that doesn't surprise us. You probably know about TIs, or targeted individuals. Have you heard about that?
No.
Okay. Targeted individuals, very quickly, are people who are targeted either for experimentation to test new technology, or if they're challenging the system, or involved in challenging the system in some way. And they use certain different types of technology to affect people in numerous ways. We've had targeted individuals on the show, and we've had people who know about this to talk about it on the show. So just something to bear in mind. They have advanced technology and they can do these things. So something to be aware of. Now, tell us all about your event that you're doing. You're coming over to the UK. Tell us all about that.
Well, I'm coming to Sedgwick House, and there's a few experts speaking on 5G, and then I'm going to be speaking on Lex Mercatoria. And then the next day, we are actually going to try and get a group together to do the paperwork that we're offering, and start the first group in the UK.
Okay, is there any plans for an InPower group, InPower Movement group over here in Ireland?
We haven't. Nobody's contacted us yet that would take that on, but we're definitely open to it. So it makes sense that it would happen. Like I said, we've gotten Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada, and US so far. So
I think that'd be interesting, and I'll put it out to the listeners. One of the things that I've said before on the show, time and time again, is about putting together a small group of people where we could meet up once a month and help people out with their cases, regardless of what it is. It could be a mortgage or whatever. And it would be a fantastic exercise for people with all different levels of experience to get together as a group, like the Hub and like the Land League, and get involved in something like this. I think that would be quite good, because the more educated we are with the system, the less we'll get bullied by the system. So maybe that's something, Carl, that we can try and launch over here. We can talk about it a bit more, maybe speak to your people and see what's involved. And if there's listeners that are in the locality of County Meath, or you can get to County Meath, then that would be fantastic to maybe have a monthly meeting and get together and do that. I don't know. I mean, we'll just play it by ear. But if you want to, if you have people like Leah or somebody, send us over information regarding your group and what's involved, and setting up the group, then we'll have a read of it, and obviously see where we go from there. Yeah.
No, it's really good to get a group together, because, as you said, people of like mind get in one room, and there's a whole other thing that happens. So it's really good to do that, and that's sort of the model that we want to have, is group that meet together, and there's just way more energy and synergy and strength and helping to overcome fear and all that stuff. So this whole thing is a process to take back that dominion that's written in the Bible, because we've been told that we don't have it, but we do. And as you said, I think somebody said here along the way, the Illuminati is more afraid of us than we of them, and that is true. It's what they're doing is an illusion, and once we wake up, it's like the Wizard of Oz story. It's over.
Yeah. Definitely, it is. And I think the more we get educated about the system, the better. Well, brilliant. We've reached that time, Cal. Great interview. Love the information. We'd love to have you on again down the line and have a chat with you. Do a part 2 and follow this up and get more into the legal side and get more in depth into a few bits and pieces, and maybe people can tell us how they've got on, if they've tried anything, just to see, just to let us know. But I'm going to pass you over to Steve, Cal, and Steve's going to get all your contact details. Steve.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to just echo the sentiments there, and I know everyone on the chat room is obviously going to feel the same. Cal, it's been fantastic information. Thanks very much for sharing your experience with us here today. We do have a link for your website, InPowerMovement.com. We have posted up on the chat rooms during the show, and also several times we've put up links to the All Saints Centre in Lewes. That's for the event on November the 4th. Outside of that, are there any other platforms where people can keep tabs on what the movement is doing? And any other plugs that you want to throw out? Now is the time there, Cal?
That's about it. InPower Movement. We're going to be able to keep people updated, and then there will be a group starting in England, and that will be the go-to thing to get everything going throughout the UK, and we'll see what happens. It's exciting to watch what's happening, how things are coming together. There's definitely an unseen hand that's putting things together, and people are coming up in various places and taking on roles and just fitting in. Like it's just very very organic and beautiful to watch.
Brilliant. Well, it's great to see people getting on and learning. I love the whole idea of the law. I find it a minefield myself, but I do like certain aspects of it and learning about the bits and pieces. So it's definitely something that I think we'll have to always go back to, and we'll get you on again and have a chat with you. And will you just thank Bob the Builder for me there with the hammer, to tell him thanks for not banging anymore. That's much appreciated. Yeah. Okay, Cal, stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go off to a musical break and be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and UnitedWeStrike.com.
Yeah, great information. Welcome back. Lovely, fantastic information there from Cal Washington. Keep the faith, as the song says. This is obviously great information. It's very empowering, as we were just saying to Cal there during the break. It's it's good information that everyone can, once you learn it, you can follow it and you can share it and you can use it and benefit from it.
Don't we always say it's always about the revenue? It's always about the money. They want the money. Like we see speeding camera vans, not in black spot areas, just parked up where they try and get the actual drivers to catch them out. There's one in Oldcastle that is parked up on the side of the road. I'm not aware that it's a black spot area at all, but they park there because they know as soon as you get round the corner, they've clocked you. So it's good to know that, it's all about commerce, and you just say, well, listen, I'm happy to pay wherever you want me to pay, but you have to prove X, Y, and Z first. So yeah, interesting. We'll get Cal on again in the new year, but maybe we look into the InPower Movement, and because it's something that we wanted to do. We said it before on the show about getting a group together once a month and swapping experiences. And so, maybe it's something down the line that we can do.
Yeah, just keep an eye as well on the People's Internet Radio website as well. The Three Amigos, they will most likely have Cal on, it says, near the end of November as well. So yeah, do check that out as well.
Okay, now, during the week, I did actually some sky watching, would you believe? I contacted a lady I know, I've known for a while, and she's big into doing a bit of sky watching. So the two of us went up. On the Wednesday, you probably remember the temperature was very warm, and it was ideal. The sky was clear, and you could actually have the car doors open. It wasn't that cold at all. And we did a bit of sky watching. Now, obviously, we just seen a few satellites, nothing else to report, I'm afraid. But it was a great night to actually do some sky watching, and we were talking, myself and the lady I was with, and we said, maybe we should do this on a regular basis. Or, it's very hard in Ireland because the weather, most of the time it's overcast or bloody raining or cold, or so it tends to be a last minute thing. You have to look out the window. Is the sky clear? Okay, what temperature is it? Do I need to put my woolly jumper on? And then go up. So we don't really have the ideal conditions for doing it, but Wednesday was ideal.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Does she have a sister?
I don't know.
One for me as well.
I don't know. I didn't ask her.
Were you lying back watching the sky?
No, I was actually hanging out the car door and looking up, because I had my camera and I have night vision on the camera, and so I just said, let's go out there for a bit of fun and clear sky, and but yeah, nothing there. But it was just the sky was lovely. When it's clear, you really see.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. It's very. Not so much humbling, but it kind of puts everything in perspective when you kind of lie back in your car and you look up at the sky. We done it a couple of years back, Alan and I think Alan's son and my daughter. My son may have been with us too. I think he was quite scared actually. But when you look back and you look up and you judge you kind of know the distance, and you see what's going on up there. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. So we might do a bit more of it. There's only so much that we can do, but the fact that it's only up the road from us, the mountain, so to speak, so it's not too bad. But it was interesting. But if we do go out and catch something, obviously we'll put it up on video, or if we see something of interest, we'll put it on video, because there seems to be an awful lot. A lot of people are now catching a lot of anomalies in the sky. For whatever reason, they're catching weird clouds or things happening in the sky with weather, or seeing things. There seems to be an awful lot going on. So eyes to the skies, folks. Keep an eye out and just, keep your eyes peeled, because you never know. You never really don't know. Now, next week we have Thomas Williams on from the THI. Thomas, good friend of OYM, as you know, and we haven't had Thomas on the show on his own for a while, actually, a good few months. So we're going to get Thomas on next week, and we're going to catch up on what's been going on, how things have been going. Thomas has his finger on the pulse. He's the spokesman for the foundation, and there's an awful lot going on. I'm sure he can give us an update on what's happening. And the other thing I want to talk to Thomas about, which he mentioned on one of his shows, and I was listening to a podcast today, funny enough, if you go on YouTube and look up a YouTuber called Yellow Rose of Texas, and she talks about things that are apparently going to be happening regarding the East and West Gate, and I don't have time to go into it now, but Thomas mentioned this on one of his shows as well. So it's just got to do with energies on the planet and rising energies and how people are dealing with it, and the divide between the kind of service to others and service to self. So it's interesting, and as I say, Thomas mentioned it. So check out the Yellow Rose of Texas. Also, somebody else on YouTube, well, a couple of stations, X22 Report, also said about the internet going down within a 48-hour period. And, well, it's near enough 24 hours, so we have another 24 hours to go, I think. And so far, everything's been fine.
They won't switch it down until after we're finished.
Oh, yeah, you have to wait.
That is the agreement.
Yeah, that's the agreement. So that's interesting. So again, if you come across anything about that, let us know. Maybe there's a lot of things going on. I know Aircom went down the other day. The Aircom had a lot of problems. People were giving out. There was a lot of outages on Aircom. So that's interesting that they talk about the internet going down. Now, apparently, the DNS servers are changing due to a lot of hacking that's been going on. The DNS, the Domain Name Service Authorities, are making changes on their servers to try and reduce the amount of hacking or the hacking attacks that's going on. This is what one person said. So it could have a little bit of disruption on the DNS servers. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Maybe they're changing for other nefarious reasons. Maybe there's a big kill switch somewhere. Because in Europe there's a thing called eBone, which is the main circuit around Europe, and then you have all these tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 providers coming off eBone, and if they close down the eBone circuit, well then that really kills the internet or a lot of connections to the internet. So it doesn't affect it globally, but it can affect it in Europe. So something to be aware of with that. So that's really it. What have you got planned for the week?
I always thought T-bone was a steak.
Well there you go. eBone, I said.
E-bone. Sorry. I'm going. Did I mention I was going there?
E-bone. You call it E-bone around Europe.
E-bone. Okay. Yeah, what am I going to be doing during the week? I'm going to be waiting to see what else is going to break in the house, and that's being totally honest with you. I still have to source an extractor fan for the kitchen. You know the way you think you can walk into a shop and buy an extractor fan? No, you can't. No. You have to order it. And delivery time will be in 1 week. What
else did break? I mean, my router. My router, I should say router.
Your router or your router?
My router, as in, it's a woodwork tool, not the router for your computer. But the router, that broke as well, I
don't know.
So, I don't know, folks. There's something going on. All this technology is happening and it's breaking and it's, and we had the problem with the laptop there a couple of weeks ago, where we had to do a complete install of the whole software and set it all up again. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just me and you are bloody jinx. Maybe that's what it is.
No, I don't think so. It has to be more than that.
Okay, can I just say again, just a reminder, folks, we are running low on donations, and we don't like asking for donations, but we try and do our best that when we do have a bit of money, that we pass it on to other people and help other people out. But things are getting very low at the moment, and it keeps the wheels in motion. And if you do like what we do at OYM, myself and Steve, then, a little donation, we'd love that. Whether it's €1, €2, €3, doesn't matter. It'd be a very, very big help if you don't mind. You just pop over to PayPal on the website, click there and put in your donation, and that'd be fantastic. We did kind of talk about Patreon going down that road, but we don't know about that yet. We'll have to see. But for now, the donation would be fantastic. Every little bit helps. But for myself anyway, Alan James, take it easy. Have a good week. Stay safe. We're getting into the couple of weeks now before we go and do the talk down in the Open Minds Conference on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of November. If you want to see us, we're going to be on Saturday morning. I'll see us there at Dooley's Hotel, Watchford. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll be on Saturday early, bright and early. What's up? Barry Prince is up next, as far as I know, on People's Internet Radio, so do stay tuned for Barry. What else have we got? Also, tomorrow evening, did I? Yes. No, I didn't. I thought I copied and pasted it into my thing. I didn't. Oh my god. Yeah, anyway, tomorrow evening, the Three Amigos, will be on People's Internet Radio from 9 o'clock, and they're going to have some information on Mark Steele's court case in Newcastle on trying to stop the 5G rollout. So all are welcome there. Do tune in to People's Internet Radio again tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Okay, well, it's just gone 9 o'clock now, so Barry Prince is up next. It's been a great evening here, and thanks to everyone who participated in the chat room. We'll see you all again next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.